Hi everyone, I'm Eric.
And I'm Christopher.
And we're Grow For Me Gardening. Today we're doing a full in-depth August garden tour. Welcome to our garden here in Zone 5B/6A in upstate New York. We are thrilled to take you through on our August garden tour. And I thought, what better place to start than kind of right here in the heart of the garden. So this is our black gum tree. This is a Green Gables tupelo. This was planted in 2022 when this entire garden was installed, and we've been adding things since, because gardens are ever evolving. In the fall, this is going to turn a beautiful, intense red. And we paired it right here with the Princeton Century Ginkgo, which turns a beautiful bright yellow. So when we're on the back terrace, we see this nice combination of the bright fall red and the bright yellow. Underneath here is a small hedge of sprinter boxwoods and Verbena bonariensis. This is an annual for us, but it reseeds, and it reseeds prolifically. And we are in zone 5B/6A, as I said earlier. So if you're in a warmer zone, I would imagine it would reseed even more prolifically.
And I believe it would be perennial in some warmer zones.
That's true. Yeah, I think it's harder to zone 7, right?
I think it's a zone 7.
This right here is a trio of Steady Eddie double file viburnum, and this right here is a great example of the blooms that it puts out all season long. It's a gorgeous lace cap flower, nice bright clear white, gorgeous structure. I even love the texture of the leaves, and in the fall this will also turn like a burgundy orange. This right here is a trio of Midnight Sun Weigela, and this is, I believe, the maximum size, right?
I don't think it gets much bigger than that.
And it does bloom pink in the spring, but it's not necessarily grown. Look at this gorgeous specimen of a rose. This is reminiscent pink coming into its stride here in the fall.
I think this would probably be the official 3rd or 4th flush of blooms on this rose. Absolutely healthy foliage. This has not been treated in any way. It just stays this healthy.
Really nice. It's backed by a quickfire fab hydrangea, which we'll get a better look at as we circle around the other side. This is a hedge of Walker's Low Catmint, and you're going to see Walker's Low Catmint repeated a lot throughout the garden. It's kind of our go-to perennial. It's got that nice bluish green foliage. It has the purple flowers on it, and the pollinators love it. It has a nice strong scent that we really enjoy. So come on around here, Christopher. More Verbena bonariensis dancing amongst the ancient mariner rose. Now, I'm trying to see if there's a nice fresh bloom for you to close up on. Right here is a hedge of Tough Stuff Top Fun hydrangeas. In front of that is a hedge of new for 2025 Supertunia Mini Vista plum veined. I'm loving this combination. They're kind of holding the place right now until these top funds get a little bit bigger. This is a gorgeous hydrangea. This is Quickfire Fab. Look at the size of those flowers. And we did just have another rainstorm like we always have here in upstate New York in August. It just comes pouring down and then the sun shines. You'd think we were like someplace tropical, but we're not. And I love how they start out pure white and then they fade pink from the bottom up.
These also bloom a considerable amount earlier than other panicles in our garden, and they have tremendous star-shaped petals there. It's wonderful, and I love how they transition from that clear white to this really pretty pink.
A drift of Rockin' Play in the Blue salvia, covered in pollinators. Now, this is an annual for us. It is harder to zone 7. We're a 5B/6A. I think if we really tried to protect them, they might come back for us. I'm not sure, but they're kind of holding the space right now while these other shrubs, we're waiting for them to get bigger. One of our most asked about shrubs here is Midnight Wine Shine, right?
Midnight Wine Shine Weigela.
It's a really clear, shiny, dark purple foliage. Tottering by Gently Roses are dancing in there amongst the Verbena bonariensis. This contrast of this dark purpley red with the lemon coral sedum is one of my favorites.
Eric, how many of these did you plant? Because this is like a solid block.
It's really crazy. I planted 3 of them. I did 1, 2, 3, and then like little pieces would break off as I would drag the hose by, and I would just kind of stick them in the ground next to it. So, and they would grow. It's really easy to propagate in the ground. Next to that is the Just Dandy Hinoki Cypress. This is an Isley introduction.
That is one of my favorite things in our entire garden. And I kind of want to get in here and snip that lemon coral away just so that it doesn't
To protect
interfere.
it?
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. But let's keep going this way around the bed. More Sprinter Boxwood. This right here is one of my favorite little moments in the garden. These are Let's Dance Skyview hydrangeas. I did prune off most of the faded blooms, but there are fresh ones coming.
Look at that pistachio center. That's one of the hallmarks of this plant. And then it comes out to either a baby blue or kind of a baby pink.
Yep, or lavender-ish for us because we're kind of a mix. We're repeating that Walker's Low catmint again. We do have some lamb's ear. I can't remember this variety name. It's not my favorite variety of lamb's ear, so we're kind of on the cusp about replacing them. Not Kinsley's Ghost. This is Sensation Honeysuckle.
Yes.
This is on the Jardin Tower obelisk, which we really needed something of this stature to hold this honeysuckle. The hummingbirds love this honeysuckle. They are here all the time. There's at least 3 of them that visit all day, every day.
Oh, I can smell it just standing here.
A nice little drift of Boscobel roses getting ready to flush out again. In front of that is an annual. This is Vivid Violet Kufia. It's an annual from Proven Winners. I think it's new for 2025.
Yes, it is.
Very popular with the hummingbirds.
It's interesting because when I think of Kufia, I think of Vermillionaire, those orange cigars. But this has more of an open shape. So we see it as a favorite of quite a few pollinators. The foliage is a little bit tired at the moment, but it does start out with kind of a nice green look to it.
And we've really been slacking off on fertilizing the annuals this year. Maybe they got fertilized 3 times.
That's true. They could have gone for another feeding. At the base of the terrace, we have 5 Lady of Shalott roses that are now out of bloom. They are a really, really heavy bloomer. So I feel like they come in, they do their beautiful show, then we deadhead them, they charge back up. You can see they're covered in lots of these new red stems, and there's probably a bud on every single one. The Katarina fountain doing its lovely splash for us. Underneath that is more of the Walker's Low catmint, which kind of gives this sort of space in between more of the Midnight Wine Shine and the hedge of Sublime hydrangeas. Invincibelle Sublime is actually a lime hydrangea. It comes out with this kind of deepish green color. No, that's the faded one, isn't it? That's the faded, darker lime color. It comes out with these little numbers. It's so interesting. Certain areas that had had a little bit of deer pressure early in the season are putting out more small blooms instead of these larger tall blooms where there's less of them. I don't know which I like better.
I like them both.
And then of course they do fade to this darker green, and that's pretty cool. They don't fade to a brown or a yucky color, so it just has this nice soft appearance. The Weeping Ruby Falls Redbud still putting out new leaves at this point in the season. And it's funny, the darker leafed plant will ultimately go bronze instead of red or purple in the fall. I really like how this is shaping up. Down here are some Boom Chocolata geranium that had a big cutback to the ground. Now they're flushing back. We might get some more flowers. At this point in the season, we may not. Finally, behind there, the Lime Time Coleus is putting on its show. Those were mowed down by a bunny and reflushed themselves nicely. My favorite tree in the garden, which must be reacting to some of that heat that we've had, putting out a fall leaf. This is a pagoda dogwood.
Well, I did notice that the earliest to like bloom and leaf out also tend to be the earliest to turn in our area. And that is one of the earliest.
This has such a great architectural horizontal habit. It put out some pretty remarkable new growth this year. At some point, we'll probably remove this bottom tier.
I think it's happening this spring probably.
It might have to.
Yeah.
Because that will send so much more energy into that spread. And then the Empress Wu hostas, which are woo this year. They are wooing. They're huge, healthy, shiny. Some of the areas you can see on the edge that don't get the shade as much did kind of scorch just the tiniest bit on the tips, but the back really have that nice glossy green. Some lady's mantle that's hanging out. This had been cut back. There's a Gatsby pink oak leaf hydrangea tucked back there. At this point in the season, it's just hanging out and we're waiting for it to turn that mahogany red leather color that it will turn as the fall comes into play. We won't go through just yet. We're going to go in that direction. But this is the Gothic Arch with the Betty Corning clematis that smells like grapes. I love this one. Sort of a nodding lavender flower. Also visited heavily by hummingbirds. And then this, very soon to shatter, as in probably right now, is a Generous Gardener Rose from David Austin. Big success. They touched the top of the arch this year. This is only their second full season from bare root in the ground. I'm very impressed with that. Tough Stuff hydrangeas putting on some nice new growth here under the Eastern Redbud. Eric just did a little bit of limbing up on this redbud to give some less shade to this area. It's gotten a bit shadier than we probably expected it would so soon. There's a little river of Dark Side of the Moon astilbe, not in bloom at the moment, but this foliage is great here. Back in through here, there's some more mostly spring feature perennials. Here is a James L. Austin rose. You can see this is still in the sun at this point in the morning. It'll be shaded through the afternoon and then get some nice afternoon sun. Lethal thorns on James L. Austin, but gorgeous, vivid color. Wine and Roses Weigela doing its thing, putting out its nice red foliage. The gold cone juniper, like this is such a nice little garden picture. I enjoy that a lot. More Serendipity Allium, which is repeated throughout the border. Then we get into our Quickfire, Pinky Winky, Quickfire Hydrangea area. But honestly, the star of this border this time of year, or for the first time this year, is the Impala Castor Bean. That is a single plant. The leaves are tremendous. The blooms look like Muppet hairballs. Like Elmo hairballs all over the place.
It's really cool. I love that big leaf.
And then Eric, if you just stand there and we take a moment to take in the layering of this area, you can see the Fall in Love Sweet and the Anemone, which the texture plays so nicely off Autumn Joy Sedum. This is starting to pink up. This will be so beautiful. This is Augusta Lavender Heliotrope. Little bit of a pastel vibe, and then you go into the hot pink of the Oh So Easy Peasy Rose. Layered behind that, you have the Let's Dance Lovable Macrophylla hydrangea. This is new. It's a rebloomer. They were planted as 1 gallons this year, so I think they're doing pretty well for their first season. These will top out, I believe, at 4x4, Eric?
Yes, I really want that to be just a giant mass of hydrangea.
A whole group. And Anna's Magic Ball. This was one that I pushed for. I really love this chartreuse pop, and it put on quite a bit of size. So this will turn into just a nice kind of 2x2 ball. Then you've got the Newly Noir Coleus giving us that dark contrast to all this green and the pinks. Really pretty back there. Jensen Urn from Campania on a Greenwich pedestal. 800 pounds of fun.
In alpine stone color.
In alpine
always
stone.
ask that.
This is another verbena. This is a proven winner's variety of this verbena bonariensis called Meteor Shower. Stays a little bit smaller, better for a container.
And it doesn't reseed.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's great. This is the Fairy Trail Green Cascading Hydrangea. Looks fantastic in the urn. It puts out beautiful green mop head blooms. We did cut them back because we had a mega heat wave and they didn't look so hot. This is the Supertunia Mini Vista Indigo, the prettiest of the Supertunias, if you ask me.
Moving right along, we have more Verbena bonariensis. These were actually little seedlings from another section of the garden that had seeded themselves. And when we have this empty space, because we were waiting for these perennials to fill in, we decided to pluck some of those seedlings up and transplant them over here. So it's a great way to just kind of fill space and get free annuals in your garden. So that's very nice.
And they should reseed here every year from now on.
Which I'm hopeful for because I do love this look. This is a hedge of sweet romance lavender. Lavender for us struggles because we are very moist here in upstate New York. We're kind of in the Adirondack Mountains where the Hudson River and the Mohawk River meet in a valley, so we get lots of rain. You can see this one right here is already kind of dying out in the middle, so that'll be interesting to see how they overwinter. Our cotton candy thalictrum has rebounded very nicely. Look at all that fresh new growth on there.
Oh, it does look really good down there. This wasn't looking so good when we first planted it, but it's really coming back.
And next year, that'll send up nice tall bloom stalks. The storm this morning splayed this North Winds prairie grass a bit, but as it dries, it'll stand back up.
It will, yeah, it'll stand back up, but in the meantime, look at this romantic, beautiful dew look upon the blooms.
It's very, very pretty. It's my favorite grass that we have in the garden. A small drift of firelight tidbit hydrangeas. Underneath this prairie winds grass, you can see that there is Blue Fortune Agastache and Crazy Fortune Agastache. There's also, this is Pink Potion, right?
Yep, Magic Show Pink Potion. We had divided this. It wasn't looking so great, but look at it's blooming and it's doing its thing.
Look at this though.
Ooh.
Some very wet Crown Princess Margareta Rose. Smells divine. I can tell you that. Behind this is a trio of Jackmantii birch, which we're going to keep well limbed. They're going to get much taller. I like birch trees because you get that height and you get that structure, but they're not ever very dense.
Yeah, they're more of that dappled light.
Mm-hmm. And next to that, I mean, the lemony lace elderberry, this elderberry is outstanding. I don't even know if it's supposed to get that tall. And we cut it back to like a foot from the ground.
Yeah, this got cut back pretty hard. I think it's funny with elderberries, you know, when you're watching Garden Answer and they talk about the black lace elderberry getting 15 feet high, our lemony lace elderberry's catching right up.
I know. There are some cannas back here that we put in there as a filler. Just a yellow canna, nice bold texture leaf, yellow flowers this time of year. It's a wetter area, so they like it there. This is Litchfield Angel Rose. It's got a little bit of, what is this called?
Botrytis.
Botrytis, from all the moisture we've been having. But it does have a lot more
buds coming.
And then this is the clematis that Christopher planted with it.
This is another one of those Trader Joe's purchases. I couldn't help myself. This is Tacoma. Nope, I don't know. Eric, I don't know the name of it.
Uh-oh. And that is crawling onto the Baptisia. Behind that is all the milkweed and the bee balm and another pinky winky. There's also a Venusta back there, a winterberry back there. Lots of happy pollinators hang out in this area of the garden. Luminary backlight phlox is finally starting to kind of fade.
Yeah, it's
for the first time this
finishing.
summer. It's been blooming nonstop since before we went away to Cape Cod at the beginning of July.
Hardest working perennial I have ever seen.
It's really outstanding. In front of that is a cute little Korean fir. This is called Icebreaker. It's an Isley evergreen, and that is the color. All year long, it's going to be that color.
This, I believe, is one of those 3x3. We're just going to let it take its sweet time getting as big as it wants.
Mm-hmm. A small hedge of Invincible Mini Mauvette. There's a fresher bloom back here, Christopher, but this overall is kind of what they fade to, this biscuit pink color. Behind them is Berry Awesome Hardy Hibiscus, Candy Crush Hardy Hibiscus, and Evening Rose Hardy Hibiscus. Berry Awesome blooms first as those blooms start to kind of peter out. Then we get the blooms from Candy Crush. And Evening Rose might not be getting enough sun because it's not as prolific as the other ones, but we can always limb up this bald cypress.
Yeah, I think we might have to do it again.
Coming over here is a hedge of Double Take Orange Quince. This is a thornless variety of quince that does not spread. It blooms really petal heavy, like tons of petals, bright corally orange blooms in the spring. our smoke bush that we coppice in the spring back there.
Yeah, look at the velvet cloak. It's put out really pretty leaves this year.
More
Wonderful.
birch. Sea spray junipers are nice to just pop in. This was actually in our foundation planting when we moved in. The landscaper for the builder had put it in because our house was built in 2018 and it came with a landscape package. And this was one of those things. Repeating the lamb's ear, orchid satin, rose of Sharon. Down here is a little butterfly bush that had grown pretty tall, and then we had an extensive hot, humid heat wave this summer, and when I came out, it was covered in fungus, so I just cut it back to the ground, and it's rebloomed, or reflushed and rebloomed. This is a cool grass. I know it's a turkey foot grass because of the shape of the flowers on it. What is this? Blue hawk, right?
This is Black Hawk's
Black Hawk.
blue stem. I mean, look at that red and green. It's such a stunner in the landscape.
It might be cool. You know how we have that annual purple fountain grass in our foundation bed? Maybe this would be good to replace it.
That could. We just have to look and see how wide it gets, because this might get pretty massive.
Yes. Also, these evergreens are green giants, and they repeat all the way across the back of the berm. Some Bennery's giant purple and Bennery's giant lime zinnias back there with a limelight prime hydrangea. This one was transplanted last fall, so this is its first summer in this spot, and I think it's doing very well.
Yeah, I would agree.
First time blooming in this spot. More serendipity allium, which of course we had divided. So if you do have ornamental onion or serendipity allium or millennium or whatever, very easy to divide, and now's a great time of year to do it. Morning light miscanthus, another one of my favorite ornamental grasses.
Big, fluffy, and variegated.
A hedge of spirea. This is double play Big Bang, right?
Doozy.
Double play doozy, double play candy corn, and then a double play.
Big Bang is just tucked in there. One of those oopsie mislabeled moments.
Yeah, we thought it was something else. This is a red obelisk beech, one of my favorite trees. I love beech trees. I think they have a gorgeous bark. I love the texture of the leaves, how they're kind of ruffly. Speaking of beautiful foliage, check out this opening day viburnum. Great structure on that. Blooms big, white, poofy flowers in the springtime. Adagio grass. This is kind of like a baby version of the morning light miscanthus with blue chiffon, rose of Sharon behind it. This is stormcloud amsonia. It's a perennial, but it looks like a shrub. It's going to turn the most gorgeous fall color in just a few weeks. It's a spring bloomer, bright blue flowers on it, and then nice foliage the entire rest of the season, and then nice fall color.
If you notice some unhappy looking plants below it, that is, we're gonna call those the sacrificial petunias.
Yeah, those were Supertunia saffron finch, and they kept the rabbits happy. I think the rabbits then did not venture too far into our garden. Speaking of, right here, paperbark maple, doing very, very well. Underplanted, just like the Princeton Century ginkgo, with ageratum. This was tall blue planet. Tall blue planet, and then some marigolds. Christopher grew these from seed. Another birch tree, another hardy hibiscus. This is going to get overhauled a little bit this coming season. We're not quite sure how yet, but neither one of us are loving the way it is right now. So this whole corner is kind of going to get revamped a bit.
Tiny in stature, but not tiny in impact. This is tiny quickfire. It's the smallest panicle hydrangea. It was the earliest panicle to bloom, the earliest to turn pink. And look at these cute little florets. There's actually 3 of them. The third one had gotten nearly taken out by the hose, but it put out one giant bloom in the center, and it is potentially going to rebloom a little bit right there. That's awesome.
It did rebound very nicely. The beauty of a panicle hydrangea that blooms on new wood.
Yes, it is. The Japanese white pine put a great amount of growth on. These do grow slow. We're looking like a good amount of growth is going to be 5 to 6 inches a year. Very architectural, and we'll just let this kind of do its interesting thing. A new perennial coming out, I believe, next year. This is Webmaster Tradescantia. or spiderwort, little variegation, kind of an orchid-looking leaf. You know, they can look a little bit wacky as far as plants go, but we've seen a lot of pollinator action on it, and I'm curious to see what happens when they grow from the ground and not from the container. I feel like a lot of perennials are like that. Then we enter the Petite Florette Dahlia seeds area. Florette, it's so amazing. Put out this collection of seeds. Look at the bees just chowing down on that gorgeous plant. I love that one. Look at this one that the bees are eating. Oh my gosh, so beautiful. The magic of growing dahlias from seeds, of course, that you don't know necessarily what you're going to get. A little cluster.
Wow, look at the one by your hand.
Ooh.
This one's a cool one.
Kind of back turned, but fluted petals almost, and it looks like you painted with a dark brush. I love it. Ooh, look at this intense orange down here. There are 29 plants, which means there are 29 different flowers. Look at this one. Oh, like they're all wrapped up on themselves, these petals. What else do we got? This one's a little more pastel. I like that. Look at this. It's kind of like a pom-pom anemone hybrid. I might have to save this one.
It's very pretty. I really like this one too, that the bees are chowing down on.
There we go. Oh, look at a new friend came. Look at, is that a baby bumblebee?
I don't know.
I've never seen a bumble that small.
I don't know enough about bees.
Let's see. Oh,
that one's really
This
pretty.
is really nice. It is fun. We get to come out and just sort of take a look at all these different colors and shapes. I like this one. This one's almost like a ball with the little, oh my gosh, it's so pretty. It's almost heavy.
Yeah, the center isn't even open on that one yet.
Oh, that's pretty. What's this guy? Ooh, that's a little different. Very much like watercolors on it. You really could do this for hours, even though there's only 29 of them. I love that. So if we save the tubers, we will get the exact flower again. But if we save seeds, we don't know exactly what we'll get. And that's really the fun part about doing dahlias from seed. So thanks to Florette for, God, I feel like a lot of people this year across the country got to experience dahlias in a new way. Kind of exciting.
And I think our staking system mostly worked. I think next year we'll use a stronger twine though.
Yes, and I think we might need to put 1 or 2 more stakes in the center just so that we can create more of a grid with like our homemade staking system using these Jardin stakes. But these stood up really nicely. So I'm very happy with that. And the Sugar Shack button bush is covered in all the red faded blooms. This is probably one of the most unique plants. Huge leaves, really shiny, kind of similar to an Aphrodite sweet shrub. Then we've got, oh goodness, we've got the pink mint clematis on this Essex trellis. All out of blooms at this point, but they're really sweet and pink. Some spilled wine Weigela. These also had gotten transplanted from the front. They are underneath a purple pillar Rose of Sharon. Because of the rain, it's not so much pillar, it's a little more vase at the moment, but this will tighten right back up. This is an Illuminati Tower mock orange.
Okay, I just wanted to get a close-up on that Rose of Sharon.
Of course. So this Illuminati orange, mock orange, is really, it's such a cool growth habit. It just grows up in these little stalks with 4 leaves kind of going in like a perfect circle. It's really interesting. I love the fragrance of this and the flowers in spring.
And it blooms white.
A new addition that may have come home with us from the Hydrangea Festival on Cape Cod. This is Seaside Serenade Glacier Bay. It's a white lace cap hydrangea. Right now it's a little botrytis-y with those, you know, the little pink stains on the white blooms, but it has black stems, making it a very unique combination. And it looks great in the garden. We'll be protecting these, so hopefully we get a really nice solid regrowth coming next year. This is Purple Illusion Salvia. We actually ordered a couple extra of these so we can make this a little thicker of a stand. Because when these are in full bloom, pollinator magnet, gorgeous color, the whole 9 yards. The Diana contorted larch has grown straight up as it kind of rains on me here. I love this tree. It's a great form and it's a great like dappled shade again. Little Lime Punch, a really fun hydrangea. This gets very intense Hawaiian punch color as it gets into the fall. I really enjoy this one.
And it's supposed to take a little bit longer to get established. These were planted in 2022, and this is kind of the first time we're really seeing this color on them.
So come on around on the other side of these raised beds, Eric. You can see all of the stuff that we have seededs coming in, the beets, the radish, the, I can't remember, what was this?
I don't know. We'll have to watch the video.
We have to watch the video. Oh my gosh, so very funny. You know how sometimes tomatoes seed themselves? This little tomato, this was a seedling that Eric found on the ground. We didn't grow these this year, we grew them last year. So he found a seedling of a tomato from last year, popped it in here, and now we're getting patio sunshine tomatoes. This is the Jacoby little pumpkin. Not looking its best, but it's still putting out these cute little pumpkins. I love that.
Up here are tons of beans. I would grab one and snack on it, but then all you'd hear would be crunching for the next 30
Oh my gosh,
seconds.
there are so many beans.
I'm very tempted by those
This
beans
is a
right
must
now.
for next year. Putting the beans on this arch, like it's the perfect arch, like arc shape to get all the beans through.
Yeah, and then they just hang there.
I love it. The strawberries are really happy. And I'll tell you what, I've recently backed off on the watering for the raised beds and suddenly the strawberries are happy. So that tells us we might need to use our little valve and turn the dial down on these so not as much water goes into these beds. The tomatoes are definitely done.
They're done.
We'll harvest whatever's left and pull these soon. And there's some oregano in here and the basil we've cut off of a ton, the peppers we've cut off of. Kale seedlings are doing well.
The eggplants have been very successful too. I've
Yes,
been
the
using
little
those a lot.
those mini eggplants. This is beets that are slightly thickly planted. We should probably thin these out a little bit.
Yeah.
The Mizuna that I'm excited to see, we have, well, there's one here. So we do have our 8 little spots, including one that stowed away over there. Merlot lettuce, the mesclun. I'm excited about this. This is gonna be a lot of fun. Eric, from over there, I'm gonna snap a flower and bring it over for you.
Okay. Oh, I think you could start here and bring us that way and the light would be fine.
Oh, okay, good. That's what I was worried about. A little bright sun at the moment. We start this area, of course, with the Sprinter boxwood, going into the Flavorette honey apricot rose, which has gone over on its bloom.
But look how healthy the foliage is.
Again, not treated. During Japanese beetle season, yes, I'm gonna use a little bit of a spray at a safe time for pollinators, but really clean, happy foliage. So Flavorette honey apricot and reminiscent rose, very much disease resistant in our experience.
Don't skip the Blew My Mind evolvulus.
Oh, Blew My Mind evolvulus. That's a funny one. It's a dwarf morning glory. So it only blooms this really true, pretty blue color in the morning. Then it closes up and it's got a really fun little leaf habit, which is underneath our Eden corn. And guess what, Eric? If you zoom in, look at, we're gonna get corn.
Oh my gosh. Oh, the corn is coming.
Look at our little corns.
Let me just hop that in there.
Oh my goodness, it's so funny.
Wow, that's cool.
You know, you can definitely tell when people are landscape garden focused versus vegetable garden focused, because we get excited about potatoes, we get excited about corn, anything that works and happens and looks cool, I'm into it. Leading Lady Minarda, there's a little bloom right here, a little pink. This is fun, it comes into bloom, goes out of bloom, we cut it. Comes back in, flushes, little pink blooms, we cut it. But it's really nice, a nice thick shiny leaf. I'm enjoying this one.
And you don't have to cut it. It'll just bury its dead if you don't.
Alpenglow zinnias, which are now trying to be a purple pillar rose of Sharon. They've gotten so big. This is another floret seed. I enjoy this one because you get the bisque, the apricot, the purpley color, There's a rose in here, but they all fade with this little lavender center. And I think it's so unique and soft. You know, usually zinnias are so hot. They're, you know, those vivid colors. I like how soft and pleasing this is. You can get up close, Eric. There's a trio here of very heavy gold winterberry. So these are like a traditional red winterberry, except that the berries will come out yellow.
On the north side of our house, we have this nice little part shade area that starts off with a morning light miscanthus grass. We also have a little pop of red foliage right here, Christopher. I think it's a spilled wine weigela.
It is.
And then these, which are totally faded, but we're leaving them up because we want them to recede. These are lavender mist meadow rue. Just a really beautiful perennial for us. There is actually, Christopher, some fresh blooms just to give the idea of the color. If you want to zoom in right
Ooh.
here. This is a fresh sprig of blooms, but it's covered in these and the pollinators adore it. Meadow rue can make you a little itchy, so just be careful if you are sensitive. This right here is Sun King Aurelia. It's a perennial, believe it or not, dies to the ground. This is the year we're going to divide it because it is getting very large for this space. And we can prevent it from reaching this size by doing the Chelsea chop earlier in the season. And that's something we might consider next year if we don't get around to dividing it this fall. These meadow rue also, by the way, are held up on more Jardin stakes just because our wind and storms they get tremendous in this area. So that helps to protect them. Nice little bird bath that the birds really use quite a bit. And the reason they use it is, one, we keep the water fresh, but two, it's tucked underneath this blood-good Japanese maple, and it gives them a spot to kind of hop up and take turns and hide from any predators they might have. I think it's because it's such a nice, safe nook for them. They really enjoy it. Some nice brunnera underneath here that's also reseeded itself a tiny bit. Geraniums, this is purple.
New Hampshire purple.
New Hampshire purple. And they're Neptune hosta, right? Look at me, I'm getting it. And then in there is Echo of the Sun hosta.
That little chartreuse little pop.
There is an Empress Wu back there. In the winter, you'll see all the hellebores we have planted. Mongave, this is Thunderbird, right?
Yes.
And that's really cool. But before we move on, I wanted to show you, before we jump up onto the terrace, this right here is Malvern Hills. This is a rambling rose from David Austin Roses that we planted in the spring. It was bare root. It is really put on. I mean, I'm 6'2".
It's taller
than me. So it's put on over 6 feet of growth in one season. If you remember that video where we planted it, it probably stuck up that much out of the ground. Our 2025 trial containers in our Aquapot lights. This is Tiara Pink and Tiara Blue. And this is Improved White Angelonia. And this is Aromagica Heliotrope. So we're just kind of checking those out. Now let's look at these containers up here. Our Bonfire Patio Peach does have some peaches on it. We wouldn't recommend it for eating necessarily, more ornamental purposes. Moonglow African Daisies. They've been doing very well for us. It's our first year growing them in containers, and I like them. I think I would consider repeating them.
I really enjoy them. I like the flower. It's a nice yellow and white without kind of looking like scrambled eggs.
Yes. These Supertunia or Superbina Sparkling Amethyst are doing better for us than the ones in the front containers, and I wonder what the difference is.
I'm not sure. And this trio of plants, I'm very pleased with this as a concept. The Superbina has kind of come in and out of bloom for us. So the Supertunia Saffron Finch, Superbina Sparkling Amethyst, and the Supertunia Mini Vista Indigo, they look so lovely together. The bloom times have just been a little suspect for us.
I almost missed this one. This is Night Owl, right? Another Mongave?
Yes, which has grown a lot.
A ton. All right. This is my annual of the year as far as the ones that we chose. Let me just not create a shadow. This one, probably because it reminds me of the Verbena bonariensis. It is Augusta Lavender Heliotrope. So it's a type of heliotrope. The blooms are kind of unique in that they unfurl. The one thing I don't love about the blooms is they do have this little bit of faded brown on them, but if you're just kind of looking from afar, it's this gorgeous mass of lavender heliotrope. Solenia yellow begonia is really popping back here. I don't know if you can
Yeah,
see
they
it,
are. They
Kristen.
look really nice there.
And then also while I'm back here, let me just shimmy by these chairs. Our lemon tree has exploded, and look down here. I think we have one that's almost ready. There's 13 lemons on this lemon tree.
He's been counting.
That one is the most ripe one. We have a little beech tree that we've been growing in here. I think maybe next spring or next fall will be the year it goes in the ground, I think.
Hopefully.
In a new garden area. Moffat blue juniper, probably also its last season in this container, I'd say, before it gets moved. And that's underplanted with a lot of the same annuals as before. The daisies, the Supertunia saffron finch, the violet night.
Yes.
Alyssum.
And the double moon glow.
And then more repetition of the purple and yellow here with the rock and deep purple salvia. The double moon glow here broke off, so I cut it back pretty hard, and it is reflushing. This is the mini me chartreuse coleus. I gave that a hard cut back. These are probably our containers that look the worst.
They're rough.
They're looking pretty rough, but we learned we have a plan to replace these containers with like maybe a single larger container instead of doing groups of 3s.
Yeah, it's a lot to keep track of.
This is the Double Dutch recipe from Proven Winners. It is the Summer Blue Large Wave Terrenia, Double Delight Primrose Begonia, and Double Delight Apple Blossom Begonia. This recipe is repeated in the hanging baskets behind Christopher that we'll get to shortly. This is the Wisteria Double Impatience from Proven Winners and a Pegasus Begonia, and a Boston Fern that we got on sale at Home Depot.
And that was actually never taken out of the little plastic pot it came in. We just plopped it into a different container.
That's true. This is a fig from Leafjoy, Proven Winners houseplant line. I can't remember the exact name though.
Chandelier Happiness, a banyan tree.
And it is happy.
It's very happy.
It's probably put on 2 feet of growth. This is a fern that I will never remember the name of. I want to say it is Divana.
Living Lace Divana.
Divana
Blue Star Fern.
And they come in these hanging baskets, which is really cool. We did not purchase these separately. They came in this. And then we just attach it to our vinyl siding with these vinyl siding hooks, which are in our Amazon store if you're interested.
Oh, Eric, right behind you. Someone wants to say hi.
It's Frederick.
Say hi, Frederick.
He's so cute. An alocasia. It's an elephant ear. It's Emerald Isle, right?
It's Emerald Isle.
New for 2025. Some super bells underneath that have seen better days, not going to lie. A repetition of the ferns all the way across. Jungle Cat Alocasia. I can remember that because it's called Jungle Cat and we have cats. And that's connected in my brain for some reason.
This one's exploded. It's done beautifully.
Really? This Calathea is called...
This is Colorful. It's a Calathea putting out some new giant leaves. I love Calathea or Bifolia.
And Amstel King Ficus. And then these are the hanging baskets that have the Double Dutch recipe in them.
Carolina Sweetheart Redbud has put out a tremendous amount of growth this year. Everything that's red is new just in the last in the last maybe 2.5 months or so. They eventually will turn to this more variegated color in the leaf that makes it very, very unique. And it's sprawling this year. I'm interested to see if it does some tall and sprawl in the years to come. Pufferfish hydrangea, these are on the new side. So they are a panicle that gets very full, heavy, pretty blooms, but they take a little bit to get established. I am enjoying just seeing them kind of loose and wild at the moment. The Parkland Pillar Birch is kind of splaying a little bit as well. We've had quite a lot of these heavy duty wet storms this year, so we'll let it straighten itself out. Ringo Double Pink Rose. There's a little grouping of 5 here. I love how the Ringo series always have that dark center. And I'm not always a fan of variegation in a flower itself, but these I really enjoy, and they stay so compact. They're going to be a really nice addition as they grow. A Tough Stuff Top Fun hydrangea, and you can see very old bloom, newer bloom. Oh, this one's soon to open, and this one is not so soon to open.
It's amazing how much they flower.
Flower power on those. To my right is the limelight hedge. We have not made a final decision on what the future of this limelight hedge is. We love it. It's one of the first things that we planted. But as you can see, the storms really do a number on it. And in the last few years, we really have worried all season about when that storm was going to come and when it was going to be kind of flopped. Because they are tremendous happy blooms, but they get so waterlogged and they flop. So watch this space to see what happens with
Well, and to be
these.
fair, the breeding, I mean, the limelight hydrangea was kind of the hydrangea, the panicle hydrangea that started it all. And there's been so many improvements in breeding panicle hydrangeas in the last decade that, you know, there's better hydrangeas we could put in this space, but
we will see
more to come.
what comes. This area has been budworm central. So I've been spraying, so the flowers are coming back, but it does just get kind of wonky over time. The poor plants are fighting against those little sap suckers. But this is Supertunia Hoopla Vivid Orchid. This is the Supertunia Mini Vista Plum Veined, which is new for next year.
Kind of what your annuals look like when you forget to fertilize them.
Yeah, and this is newly Noir Coleus, not even trying to put out a bloom because, again, we had not been fertilizing. Woolerton Old Hall.
Oh, shattering.
A lovely climbing rose that we have on this set of, I would call this sort of generic trellis that we like the look of. We zip tied them together, hung them on these vinyl siding hooks, and we're just going to train the lovely Woolerton Old Hall right onto it and see what happens over the years. Back on this side, there is an evergreen here called Blue Feathers Hinoki Cypress. When we bought it, it was a little globe, and then as I've read about it and looked at pictures, it actually will get a little bit more of a traditional cone shape, and I'm excited to see it do that. It's already starting to get a little more upright. It's fun. The French lilac, one of the first things we ever bought. It's been transplanted a few times. This is its final home. We're just going to keep it limbed up, keep it healthy, let it do its thing. Beautiful purple, super fragrant flowers. This is Night Embers, I believe, sedum. I like it because it has dark foliage. I like this kind of hot pink bloom that it's going to do soon. Eric had divided these, so they're not super strong, but they'll get nice and full in this spot in time. Behind that is the Neptune Catmint, a different variety than the other ones. We normally cut this back and then let it reflush. This year we didn't, and I think we can agree this is why we normally cut it back.
I guess. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it because it's a little chartreusey.
Okay, I can do that. This is Ember Waves Western Arborvitae. What a gorgeous glow. It looks like it's glowing with the darker green inside, the little bit of yellowy chartreuse, and then just the tiniest bit of orange tips. You can't really see that from afar, but it does give it kind of a glowing quality. This is the Blue Bubbly Baptisia stand. There's 3 of them here. We're using it to cover up the egress window from the basement. There's one trouble, Eric, I don't know if you had noticed, but our Pesto Mugo Pine is not happy on that side. So I'm not sure what we're going to do about that.
Why do you think it's not happy? Not enough sun?
Yeah, because it's completely buried there. And that, I mean, that'll be okay. If we have to move that, we'll move it. It's only been in for a season. Claire Austin. She was a rescue rose, but she doesn't look like a rescue to me right now.
She looks fantastic. This is the best bloom we've ever gotten from her.
Ooh, and she smells really good.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, this is not something we've seen yet on this in 2 or 3 years. So we might have to actually put the next piece of trellis on for next year and let this thing grow. More of this Augusta Lavender Heliotrope. You know, it's funny, over here, not in the container, it has less of the brown and more thickness to the bloom.
Oh, I wonder if it's just more consistent water, perhaps?
It could be the water. I wonder if the compost in the ground here is keeping it fed better.
This also doesn't get as much sun over here. This is a barely full sun location.
That's true. That is very true. White pillar, Rose of Sharon. Not quite as pillory as that purple, but very clear white flower. I love that one. A Hollywood juniper that is staked. It was really funny. This spent the entire winter face forward, but it survived. We staked it, and it seems to really be getting established and putting out.
Yeah, because we planted it last fall, so it wasn't rooted in.
And then there's the Fall in Love Sweetly, which is repeated from the other side border. And then the Luscious Royale Pina Colada Lantana. I love this flower. I'm not sure if we're going to do it again, only because it seems to be one of those cyclical blooming annuals for us. It goes in and out of bloom, and when it's out of bloom, you don't love it.
I don't know if we're hot enough for it.
It could be that. Look at our Vanderwolf pine. The huggable pine, I'm not going to hug it because it's all wet at the moment. The variegated needles just make it sparkle in the sun. It has shaped itself up into quite the limber pine. Our Shiloh Splash River Birch here with all of that variegation, doing very well. This is not staked anymore, and Eric limbed it up pretty far so that we could tuck some things underneath it in the years to come, but it's just gotten thicker and happier over time. Limelight Prime, this obviously is much bigger than the one on the berm garden because it's been able to be established longer. I like the darker leaves on Limelight Prime in comparison with regular Limelight, and I do think they get a little more vivid pink as well.
I agree.
My favorite hydrangea is next. This is Let's Dance Can Do. And yes, it is doing it. It is putting out new blooms all over the place. These were very small specimens when we got them, and they did die back almost to the ground over the winter. But I like, there's something about this shape of the leaf structure is what I love about it. It's like these different kinds of brights and darks in the green, and the veining is really nice. It's just very eye-catching to me. I enjoy this so much. Probably my annual of next year. This is one of the 2025s that we've been able to check out early. Unplugged white. It's kind of a gray, silver, steely color. It's not like a crisp white, and it's got a sagey green foliage. This would pair so well with Supertunia, Vista Jazzberry, something with more of that like purpley kind of tone, like those pinks. And you can see just like this kind of cool pink in the Can Do right here. It matches really nicely with that. Lots of options there. Another of the Adagio Miscanthus. I like this one because it has a champagne frond. The Weeping White Spruce.
Weeping Norway
Spruce. This year, it grew up right for me, so I didn't have to stake the new growth. We'll see what happens next year, but if it's going to just put a little leader out for me, I will take that. But if you notice, Eric, it was weeping, and then it kind of turned into a regular Norway spruce.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that funny? I think that's great. This is Firelight Tidbit, Eric's favorite panicle hydrangea. This year, it's got a lot of variation in timing. You've got the new blooms coming. You've got the almost open, the very open white, all the way into the dark pink.
Yeah, this is the first time the blooms have been spaced out like this. Normally it's like a all at once, completely covered in flowers. I don't know what was up with the weather this year.
But I kind of love it. Not gonna deny I love it. This is the Gabriel Oak Rose. There is one open.
Oh, good.
One open right here. This poor rose has been dealing with some thrips. I would love to say, oh, every year it's perfect. The roses are perfect, but gardening is never going to be that way. I want to point out how the green wall is doing. The Blue Point Juniper, of course, perfect. It's so much nicer now that these edges have been cleaned up. The 3 North Pole Arborvitae are growing very nicely. We have 3 Gembox, Strongbox Inkberry Hollies, which have actually put tiny pieces of new growth out, Eric. Did you notice that?
Oh, I didn't.
That's just since we planted them about a week ago. This down here is a Good Vibrations ligustrum, a golden privet, putting out some new growth. Yes, it's a very tiny specimen.
So tiny.
I think we might put a little something to cover this for the winter because any bunny damage isn't going to be good. This is Green Screen Arborvitae coming out next year from Isley. It's kind of a smaller version of an emerald green arborvitae, but really tight habit.
No, it's a smaller version of a green giant.
Oh, I thought it was a smaller emerald green. No, you know what? It does look like a green giant. Oh well. So this is Castle Rouge. This is a blue holly. So it's going to have that more, Christmas holly look, but it's a male, so it will not produce berries. And the new growth will have a little bit of a red tinge. And last on this side of the house is our Jane Magnolia that we limbed up quite a lot. It was a very aggressive pruning. We were very nervous about it, and it ended up looking amazing.
Flanking our garage doors are the Urbino planters in Nero Nuovo finish with a nice little obelisk inside. I really like that this adds a touch of structure, even though this time of year it's a little swallowed up, but I think it needs it. We have that repetition of the Supertunia, Japanese beetle. Supertunia, I don't know. It's out of season for you. Go away. Supertunia Saffron Finch, Superbena Sparkling Amethyst, and then we have that Luscious Royale Pina Colada Lantana. I don't want to repeat this again because it doesn't have enough flower power in our growing zone.
Right. And the thing is, I will say, when these are all mixed together, it is a beautiful combination.
And then, not blooming, but budding up is Rise Up Lilac Days Rose, which I would say this is the first time maybe all season that we haven't had flowers on it.
Yeah, it's resting at the moment.
Definitely resting up. So that repeats 3 times. In here is a Hollywood hibiscus. Now this is a new shrub hibiscus. It's not hardy for us. So if we wanted to save it, we would have to bring it inside to protect it over the winter. I don't see that in our future though.
I'm not sure if it's going to make the cut this year.
Again, I don't think we're hot enough for this to really, really thrive. Coming on up here, we have our Lamium. This is Pink Chablis Lamium. This in full shade is more Lamium. This is that mini me chartreuse coleus again. The foliage is a lot bigger in the shade.
It's beautiful in the shade.
Which is interesting. Newly Noir coleus, and then we have a little Selenia begonia. We also had one in here, but it's very tiny. Minimal shade. We might have to consider, I don't know what we would put there. I mean,
I think
hate
we're
to
going
put a fake
faux.
plant, but
we're going faux.
We
have to go faux because we need the height.
Columnar Hetzi Juniper. And then Christopher, if you go around front, this is the Winter Gem Boxwood with Invincible Wee White Hydrangeas. That's a smooth leaf hydrangea in full sun. This is the purple fountain grass that I just love. I think this foundation bed needs that purpley red element. Blue Kazoo Spirea that'll bloom white in spring. We love this foliage color because this time of year is starting to turn that purpley maroon. Behind that is a hedge of Invincible Spirit 2 smooth leaf hydrangeas. They've been cut pretty flat. And then behind that is Winter Gem Boxwood. Right here is a nice hedge. This is an annual for us. This is Artist Blue Floss Flower Agerated Hybrid. And it just does this all season long. More Firelight Tidbits repeating. Again, they're doing this like spaced out bloom, which is really interesting. It's the first time they've ever done it. Another Winter Gem Boxwood before we get into our hedge of Vanessa Bell Rose. This is a David Austin Shrub Rose.
Oh, that one's kind of yellow.
You can see that when it's hotter, the blooms are whiter. And then this next flush of blooms is more yellow because it was a little cooler when those buds were formed. These are underplanting the Tricolor Beach. It's doing pretty well for this time of year. Sometimes it can get a little faded by the end of the summer, but I think it's doing better. Every year it gets stronger. And there is a hedge of Walker's Low Catmint. Christopher, if you back up, we can do these 2 floating beds quick. To my right, there's another birch tree grouping with Walker's Low Catmint and Winter Gem Boxwoods and more Invincible Wee White Hydrangeas.
With one having a bloom.
And then here in this bed is a Vanilla Strawberry Hydrangea, another panicle. I like this hydrangea because it has the nice dark stems on it and the blooms get nice and pink. Some Bidens, Walker's Low Catmint, another Blue Kazoo, and Firelight Tidbit to tie in the foundation bed to this area. That enormous grass right there is a pampas grass.
It is technically called dwarf pampas grass. I looked it up.
So I can't imagine what regular size pampas grass
What is it,
looks
like 30 feet tall?
I have no idea. Another Hetzi columnar juniper to mirror the foundation bed. Red fox katsura. This is a cool addition from Isley that we added this summer. It did suffer a little insect damage earlier, but all of the new growth.
That great olive green.
And I can't wait to see the fall color on this. It's supposed to be pretty epic. Spring Grove Arborvitae, which is a proven winner's version of Green Giant Arborvitae. And that brings us to this green wall, which is the same as the other side. So all of the same exact plants planted in the exact same way. And then we'll finish up here in the hydrangea room. Gatsby Pink Oak Leaf Hydrangea. Look at how gorgeous that is.
It's massive.
It's massive. And oak leaf hydrangeas are one of those things you see in the can at the garden center and you're like, that looks like sticks, but really stunning. Here is Teasing Georgia Rose on another Jardin Tower obelisk. So if you have a big climbing rose like Teasing Georgia, it'll do great for you on the Jardin Tower obelisk.
Little new flower up in there tucked in. And this does have a beautiful blue clematis called Superba. It's a dark purpley blue.
Yes, I saw it earlier in the season. I don't see it right now. This right here is a giant hedge of Checkmark Trilogy Weigela. These are going to move. They're supposed to get 3x3, but this is bigger than 3x3. So I think we want to replace these with something a little bit smaller. I think we're going to probably do Invincible Ruby, right?
I think it should be ruby.
And then these will probably move up to the bed in front. Columnar Scotch Pine to fill that empty space there. Surefire Rose Begonia. They're really growing on me. At the beginning of the season, I was kind of iffy about the intensity of their color, but they're showing up real good right now.
They really are. They are just, they are very reliable.
Discontinued by proven winners, but I still love it. Lime Ricky Hydrangea. This is, Invincible Sublime was made to replace this. So, but I like that size of that flower. Royal Frost Birch. I love this tree so much. It's just such a stunner.
It's a great tree.
And again, it's got that dappled shade. Let me go this way, Christopher, for a moment and bring you over to Bathsheba. Another climbing rose. This kind of mirrors the Woolerton Old Hall setup on the other side. I mean, look at that.
I love it. And then there's the Raguchi
Clematis,
which of course will catch right up with the size of Bathsheba. They have a very similar growth habits.
And then this is more Invincible Sublime. Now, if you can imagine this back row here, it's Invincible Sublime and Invincible Lace. These were planted last October, so less than a year ago, and they were 1-gallon shrubs. They're supposed to eventually get 5x5, but look at this growth in less than a year.
Massive.
Massive. And then we have Invincible Ruby. Here's some fresher blooms with some faded blooms. I think we're going to add another Invincible Ruby here.
I think that'd be great.
And then as we're kind of talking about the hydrangeas, let me just mention, this was Incredible Blush. Amazing. This is incredible. I think this birch tree was drinking its water. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we need to add some more drip to that.
Add some more emitters. But that's kind of the repetition of the front row is Incredible and Incredible Blush. And the back row is Invincible Sublime and Invincible Lace. And eventually, I mean, I bet even next year we're going to see a tremendous amount of growth on these as they get established.
Big time.
And we add more drip. This is a pollarded willow. So if we didn't pollard it, which means like turn it into tree form, it would just be an enormous shrub right now. And it would be covering, I think it would probably be like out to here.
At least.
Right? But by turning it into tree form, we're able to have a little bit of a shade area with a mix of hostas and brunnera and hellebores and coral bells and astilbe. There's just a nice mix of chartreuses and greens and blues and reds and all different foliage mixed together.
It's interesting how the Coast to Coast hosta, which is the chartreuse number, is the only one that really bleached. The other ones did very well.
But yeah, interesting. And then as you come here, we have some more meadow rue that we're going to let reseed. That's the lavender mist variety. a hedge of faded Invincible rubies. This is Winecraft Gold Smoke Bush. This is going to get cut next spring for sure because it is very, very large.
It's a little too large.
Maybe a little too large. Aphrodite Sweet Shrub with some more pink Chebly Lamium underneath. Our quick fire hydrangea in the back is actually on standard, so it is tree form. It's a beautiful specimen with Invincible Spirit 2 hydrangeas in front. Invincible Spirit 2 fade to this green, which I like. It's a nice neutral color. When it's a fresh flower, it does look this color. That's a tiny little... Maybe.
Oh, it is a tiny little rebloom.
Yeah. And that brings us over to the Kinsley Ghost Honeysuckle, the Winecraft Black Smoke Bush. We have a Mugo Pine, another blue stem grass right here.
That's Twilight Zone.
This is Hewitt's Double Pink Thalictrum. This is another meadow rue.
Blooming at kind of the wrong time because it was planted on the late side, but it's stunning.
And then that brings us back to our Gothic Arch, which has Bobo hydrangeas at the base. And that concludes the August garden tour. Thank you so much for joining us today on our full August garden tour. Again, I'm Eric.
And I'm Christopher.
And we're Grow For Me Gardening.
Thanks for growing with us. For some reason, there are turkeys sitting on the fence. There were 8 or 9 of them up there. This one looks like a baby that's grown up a little bit. But I think they just want to watch us film the tour. Good morning, friend.